What's going on, you guys? It's Cody. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we're talking about NIO and what happened with NIO Day over the weekend. Wow, this was an amazing event and there was a lot of news that came out, and I think there's some really good things that came from it, and I think there's some things that a lot of people are getting too hyped about because there's some negatives as well. So we're going to talk about that here today. So first I want to cover what happened with NIO Day. Well, first off, I think probably the most surprising, or not necessarily surprising, but the most exciting point that they made on NIO Day was the release of their new sedan, ET7. This is a sedan that's going to be priced in the luxury market. It does look very good. It is going to have some very impressive features, and I think it's an absolutely beautiful car, and it's going to be really good for NIO. I think this is exactly the market that they need to break into because sedans are so popular there in China. It is going to be a bestseller for them, and this is the first sedan that NIO has released. If you look at other sedans in the space, such as the Xpeng car, the P7, this has sold extremely well. In fact, it makes up about 2/3 of Xpeng's total sales. However, I do understand that this is going to be a higher end NIO car, so I don't know that it will necessarily sell as well just because of the higher price point, but I do think that it shows that, hey, if Xpeng is selling roughly 2/3 of their vehicles are the sedans, I do think that that shows that NIO is going to be very successful with selling this ET7. So that being said, this is very exciting news. The only thing that I'm a little bit, bummed about is that unfortunately, this is kind of expected, so no big surprise, but it is not going to be produced until at least 2022, and also the bigger battery size, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, is not going to be available until at least late 2022. So this is still at least a year to 18 to 24 months out before a lot of these features come available for NIO. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a great company behind this and that they're not going to succeed. It just means that, hey, keep in mind, this is something that's going to happen years down the road. This isn't a new service that's coming out in, let's say, 2 or 3 months. I think with this new ET7, they are taking the same approach that Tesla took with their cars. They're trying to sell a higher premium level car to be able to generate revenue that therefore can produce the capital needed to produce a cheaper and more affordable car. So I think that NIO is kind of going this route. However, they are trying to kind of build a brand around them as well. They're not going to try and sell the cheapest car out there possible, at least not under the NIO name. NIO is already backlogged on current orders, and I think I heard rumors that it was somewhere between about 8 to 12 weeks for current orders before they're actually ready, and this is a great problem to have. If you look at a lot of the other great big car manufacturers out there, they usually have a surplus of inventory because they built so many cars and they've been around for so long that they've got more cars than actual demand for those cars. Whereas Tesla and NIO, they've got the opposite problem, right? They're trying to keep up. They're trying to churn out as many vehicles as possible to boost their numbers. And as they are able to do this, they're going to continue to increase the amount of revenue that they're able to generate, as well as the significant brand exposure that they're going to get from selling more vehicles. The last thing I got to mention about the ET7 that's expected is the forward-facing LiDAR. Of course, Tesla is not a fan of LiDAR, at least Elon Musk has not been in the past, but a lot of these other manufacturers are getting LiDAR onto their cars because it seems to be that they have faith that this is a better way for autonomous driving. It's a safer way to actually scan the surroundings and make sure that your car notices what's around it. However, with the ET7, they're kind of focusing on just a forward-facing, roughly 120-degree view of what's in front of the car, and that's probably the most important thing. As you're going forward with the car, this is really what you're concerned about. You're not really concerned about with what's happening, 30 feet behind you to the right. You really just want to know about that thing that's in the road in front of you 20 feet out, right? So this is going to give them the ability to keep the LiDAR system more sleek within the car, and we're expecting it to be in the windshield area where the windshield meets the roof of the car. So this is going to be really cool. That's the last thing I want to mention there. The other things that we saw here on NIO Day was the reveal of the 150 kilowatt battery. Like I said earlier, this is not expected to be released until at least late 2022. So this is really exciting news. This is absolutely magnificent, but unfortunately, it is not a reality just yet. This isn't something that's going to be coming out in 2, 3, 4 months. It's going to be at least roughly 2 years before this is actually being put into new cars. However, the fact that this is going to give you roughly a 625-mile range on your vehicle is absolutely phenomenal. That's an amazing range, and especially when you factor in, how much the battery degrades during the colder weather. For instance, for myself, with my Tesla, my battery does degrade a little bit more than I expected. And, that's just part of driving an electric vehicle. Not a huge deal, but still something that you need to factor in. And so having this increased range, 625 miles, is a huge plus. And if you can get to that that, that's going to definitely reduce the amount of range anxiety that people actually have. Next on our list, NIO did announce a partnership with NVIDIA for new chips, which is going to be an awesome partnership. Obviously, NVIDIA has a major track record and has made the transition into this EV space very well, and I think they're going to see a lot of success there. All right, so where does NIO go from here? Well, first, I want to talk about what their stock has actually done and the massive increase we saw as we moved into Monday trading. Well, if you look at this chart here, you can see we hit a high of $64.40 for the day so far. Right now, it is trading at roughly $63.60, and it is up massively from where it closed on Friday at roughly that $59 mark. So this is actually really great news. We saw this run up for as we went into NIO Day, the hype around this and what we expected, and then we did see another massive jump based on the news that they revealed to us and the excitement that's going on around that. So that's actually really good news for that. By the way, this is the Webull platform. If you haven't gotten your free stocks using the Webull platform, make sure to do that. There's a link down in the description. If you sign up and start a new account and deposit $100, you're going to get 4 free stocks valued up to at least $21, and potentially those stocks could increase in price. Who knows? I'm not saying they will, but they could actually go up at some point in the future. So you could actually get you're going to get at least a 21% return if you do that. Anyways, this the price range right here at $64 is absolutely awesome. Congratulations to all NIO shareholders out there. I think this is going to continue to climb up to $100 by the end of the year. I will say that I do expect a pullback. I think that as we move into the end of the week and probably into next week, some of the hype will die off. And like I said, I'm expecting it kind of drop down to this like mid 50 range, potentially down into low 50 range as well. I don't know if it'll cross under 50, but just some food for thought there. I want to share some of my thoughts about where I think NIO could go. Like I mentioned earlier, the battery is a big factor for a lot of people, especially in the electric vehicles. This is probably the #1 concern that always gets touched on. The thing that's surprising is that in December, they reported that over 40% of people who bought NIO cars actually enrolled in their battery as a service system as well. So this is actually a pretty good number. It's actually higher than I thought it would be. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that I swear I had seen an article somewhere, or I was reading something that said roughly 60% of the Chinese population who live in major cities, right? We're talking about like the bigger major cities or suburbs, not necessarily out in the rural areas, but like 60% had garages or dedicated parking spots. Now, I don't know if this is correct, so do not quote me on it. I tried to look it up and tried to find out where that was. I did some Google searches, but I couldn't find that, but I swear I had seen something that said that. And so I thought it was kind of ironic. I don't know, maybe it was in a dream or something that I had, but I thought it was kind of ironic that 60% had a garage or dedicated parking spot where perhaps they could charge overnight, and then 40% actually enrolled in the battery as a service, perhaps because they don't have a dedicated parking spot, and so they don't have somewhere consistent to charge their battery. I think there's good and bad things to this. Of course, changing out your battery is convenient, but for me, I enjoy being able to just go and, fill up overnight with my Tesla, right? I just plug it in at night, and obviously that's because I have a garage, and other people may not have that luxury. But I look at this and I'm thinking, battery as a service could be a good thing. It's similar to going to a gas station or similar to driving to a vehicle charging station, but it's much quicker, right? I think it takes like 3 to 5 minutes with, pulling in, pulling out, that type of thing, to get your battery changed. So that's actually really cool. You don't have to worry about the state of the battery. If your battery goes bad, you just drive it in, you replace it, and you're good to go. So that's actually really cool news with that, and I think it's going to continue to expand. I think they could see success with that same exact service in Europe as they expand into that market as well. Now, there's no major announcements expected until at least February, when we receive delivery numbers for the month of January. Obviously, in China, these companies have been reporting deliveries month over month, whereas Tesla generally only releases delivery numbers by the quarter. So this is going to be exciting news. It kind of keeps you on the heels of, on your toes, I should say, of what's coming next with this company. However, there's no other major announcements expected besides that, unless we just get some news out of the blue. Even though NIO is up massively today, I do think they're going to see a little bit of pullback as the hype and the focus pulls off of NIO, as the traders kind of, move to other stocks, or as earnings come up for other companies and whatnot. I think we're going to see some of that pullback on NIO. I would not be surprised to see it drop down into the mid 50s again, maybe 55. I don't know that it'll cross under 50 again. Who knows? That'd be great if it does, but I don't see that happening. I think that the catalyst for January deliveries is going to push the stock up again as focus, again, circles back onto this company. So NIO is obviously the favorite among these Chinese EV companies at this point, and I think it will continue to be that way. That being said, I'm not buying any more shares at this point. I've got a pretty nice position built out based on my overall portfolio, and I'm not going to be selling those positions either. I do think that NIO has a good chance to be over $100 by the end of 2021, just based off of what they have going on. I think if revenues and delivery numbers continue to increase, I would not be surprised to see this push up over $100. That being said, I don't want to put more in because there is still always a little bit of risk investing in Chinese companies and investing in a company that is already so expensive. When you actually look at the numbers, Tesla is actually cheaper on a price to earning ratio of compared to NIO. And, it's a little bit hard to just continue investing in a company just because there's a lot of hype and growth around it. Yes, it could get there, but it's not quite as guaranteed. So you have to really kind of weigh what's the risk versus what's the reward, right? And so that's what I'm looking at here for myself personally. Now, there was an article put out that said, hey, William Li announced that NIO might at some point release another car that is in a lower price range. It's going to be in that $25, $30, $35, maybe $40,000 price range, but it's not going to be under the NIO brand. This is actually very popular among auto manufacturers. There's a lot of car companies out there that own other car companies that you do know that are actually owned by one massive parent company. I want to give you a couple examples of this just to kind of share some information about how this would possibly go down. Honda actually owns Acura. Toyota owns Lexus. Volkswagen Auto Group actually owns a number of very large auto manufacturers around the world. They own brands such as Volkswagen, Audi, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Porsche, Ducati, Seat, and Skoda, which are massive brands in Europe. So Volkswagen Auto Group actually owns a lot of these other well-known companies that you may know. And it makes sense to do this, right? When you look at NIO, NIO's trying to build a brand and establish themselves as a higher end luxury car manufacturer. And if you look at, like, let's say Lamborghini is not going to go release a $50,000 car. That just doesn't make sense for their brand, right? For NIO, they want to be in that same spot. They don't want to say, hey, NIO is going to release a $25,000 car and then have a $150,000 car, right? That's just not going to make sense for what their brand is and what they want to do. I will say that Tesla has gotten away with this so far because they are a very well-known company and they have the brand recognition behind them. If somebody goes out and buys a $35,000 Model 3 or they go out and buy a $130,000 Plaid Model S, they're not feeling like they got ripped off because they bought a more expensive car or a cheaper car, right? They're looking at this and saying they know the worth of what that Tesla car can provide, and that's what's important to the buyer of that brand. Tesla has such a significant brand value around it that when you drive a Tesla or you have a Tesla, it's cool. Like, regardless of which model you're driving, it's really cool. Whether you're driving the $35,000 Model 3 or you're driving the $130,000 Plaid Model S, it doesn't matter. It's still a cool car, and that's what Tesla's kind of gone for and has been able to succeed with thus far. So with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up here on the video if you enjoyed this content. Don't forget to get your free stocks with Webull using the link down in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I talk about all things money, stocks, and real estate here on the channel. I'd love for you to stick around and catch some of my next videos. And with that said, I'll catch you in the next one.